Howdy folks, good morning. My name's Chris, I'm here with Zone Zero California, and for this video we are up in the Elysian Heights neighborhood, close to Dodger Stadium. Now this isn't the biggest neighborhood per se, but it is definitely in a very high fire hazard severity zone. And so continuing with our series of videos, going to these very high fire hazard severity zones, taking you, the viewers, on the ground to show you just where these zones begin and end, to raise awareness and open the discussion to the topic of Zone Zero here. Of course, what is Zone Zero? Zone Zero is the 0 to 5 feet around any home or structure, and these are new regulations when it comes to fire hardening being required by the state. I think we're going to see a set of rules and regulations issued by the state at the top, maybe a little bit more broader guidelines, and then most likely you'll see local counties and governments issuing more specific rules and regulations on their own, because San Diego or Los Angeles is going to have different needs, requirements, different building. The houses are built closer together. I mean, to put it simply, right? Versus like if you're in a more rural community, sure, you might have 100 feet of defensible space, but here in Los Angeles, places like San Diego or in the Bay Area, that's not the case. You may share a fence less than 5 feet with your neighbor. And of course, if that fence is made of wood, then that's going to be something that the Zone Zero regulations will affect. And you as the homeowner or property manager, unfortunately, you're going to have the burden. So we're just trying to raise awareness. We want to be prepared, not scared, all right? So, of course, as I mentioned, Zone Zero is the 0 to 5 feet around your home or property or structure. And it must be free and clear of any combustible material. And moving forward, all of your building materials must be Class A non-combustible. So what does that look like in implementation? Well, first of all, any new homes being built must comply with these Zone Zero regulations. So any new homes or structures being built will require that non-combustible Class A material be used within the 0 to 5 feet. So that's going to include your roofing and your siding. It's going to include things like your decks and your balconies, and of course your fences and gates and your landscaping. And those are the major areas when it comes to thinking about construction or the impact of these Zone Zero regulations. So that's what we're here to discuss and talk about. What I usually do is take a quick drive around these neighborhoods and point out just how many homes are going to be affected. Of course, if you live outside of a very high fire hazard severity zone, as of right now, you will not have to worry about complying with these things unless either the state changes their rules or your insurance company itself makes these demands. And of course, we've seen and heard many stories about homeowners struggling to get insurance coverage due to factors like this. So again, we're just here to raise awareness and talk about things and bring folks into the very high fire hazard severity zones, mostly because it's hard to imagine, right? Like if I said to you the wildland urban interface, maybe you think that's the edge of town, right? Where the forest ends and civilization just barely begins. But I'm in the middle of Elysian Park. Now behind me, it may seem like a country meadow, but in front of me is the whole neighborhood. And so you guys are gonna see that as we take a drive around here. So landscaping, it used to be Zone 1 and Zone 2. Zone 1 was 0 to 30 feet. Lean, clean, and green was the saying. As it implies, keep it free of debris, keep it green, so that way it doesn't dry out and become more susceptible to fires. Well, now, in the Zone Zero, that 0 to 5 feet, you may need to be replacing grass with gravel. All right, obviously old wood fences and gates will need to be replaced as well. Now, when it comes to wood in particular, there are hardwoods approved by CAL FIRE, namely Kayu Batu. I know for a fact, I've seen that report. But nevertheless, if you have redwood or cedar, that is most likely going to need to be replaced. So you don't have to go all metal, but you do have to understand which woods are approved for use. Okay, so that's going to cover your fences, your decks, your gates. What else is there? Now, when it comes to your siding, we're seeing in these old historic neighborhoods a lot of craftsman houses, for example. That's probably wood siding. So imagine now being compelled by the state to essentially being forced to change your siding. Not only is that a heavy burden, but it's a heavy financial undertaking. So there are grants available. I've put together a couple of resources for you. Mainly I have my school community. It's absolutely free to join. but it's a great place for me to just compile and organize and centralize information, so that way you can come to one place and go through all the different grants and links to government agencies. You know, I'm even like updating with news articles in a timeline, just so it makes things a little easier to navigate. I've also started a Reddit community. You know, a lot of conversations like to happen there. I mean, feel free to either join us on School, on Reddit, or even in the comment section here. Share your stories. If you had headaches dealing with the state or with insurance, and you want to get it off your chest, and you want to vent, please put it in the comment section here, or join us in the communities on Reddit or on School, because sharing your story will actually help other people. And if it helps you get it off your chest and feel better, I got no problem with that. I invite you to please come share your stories. So, you know, that's really it. Of course, if you want to be put in touch with licensed contractors in your local area, go to zonezerocalifornia.com, give us a call, or fill out the form on our website there, and we'll connect you, all right? So let's go take a drive in the Elysian Heights neighborhood and point out just how many things will need to be addressed when it comes to Zone Zero. All right, let's go. Hey everyone, it's Chris. I'm back in the truck. Okay, let's take a drive around Elysian Heights very quickly. Don't want to, let me just put it to you this way. If it's anything like the other neighborhoods, we won't have to drive far to point things out. So now 0 to 5 feet. Okay, but look at all of, just take a look at the kinds of landscaping and the amount of trees in this particular neighborhood. Oh, look at this. A giant wood fence and gate, and it goes right up to the detached garage. So that would need to be replaced. Same thing here. In fact, look at this. This is old craftsman style, I believe. Now that could be an aluminum door, but it looks like wood siding on the detached garage, and of course you have a wooden gate right there. And of course all the landscaping, right? What else do we got here? Same thing. Wood doors, detached garage, wood gate here. Okay, and then you've got a deck above the detached garage there, another wood gate. Now it's got a steel frame, but that's probably redwood, right? And so that deck, that railing looks like wood. All right. What else do we got here? So detached garage. Now that could be a hardwood, that garage door in particular. Okay. The siding on this house, how about this? That could be hardwood. My guess is that I think that's hardwood. All right, so that would be cool. So, you know, if you have hardwood siding, you're safe. But again, just think of the vegetation here. Okay, all of this mulch, right? That could be combustible if the embers land there. All right, so just continue. Again, look at that. The tree is touching the house, so that's a Zone 0. Right, what else do we got here? Wood gate. All right. Wood fence. Now, is this redwood or is this hardwood? This might actually be hardwood. So that might be, okay, remember I was telling you about patios? Look at that. That is probably redwood. Siding here. That siding might be wood. I'm driving slowly, I just got past. So here's a wood gate. Now it's got a metal frame, but again, it's got to be a approved wood, like a hardwood. This is wood fence, old wood fence with dry vegetation on top of it, right? No bueno. That's probably tongue and groove redwood on that gate, and same thing with this garage door. So that wood would probably need to be replaced. And then of course you have more vegetation here. So that was just a brief, listen, that was just a brief trip, or you know, a brief drive down one block here in Elysian Heights. So Elysian Heights is definitely in the middle of a very high fire hazard severity zone, sort of on the eastern slope where it goes down, and I believe you have either the Glendale freeway or the 110 freeway down on the other side below the hill. Once you get past a certain point of elevation, then you're outside of the fire hazard severity zone. But again, on the other side, once you get up into the hills on the other side of the freeway, you're kind of back in the very high fire hazard severity zone there. So I'm gonna leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Please visit us at zonezerocalifornia.com to be put in touch with licensed contractors in your local area. Thank you.